And talking about funding, Nigeria's economy runs on small and medium-sized enterprises, yet millions of these businesses remain underbanked and underserved. As digital platforms transform commerce, embedded finance is emerging as a game changer, offering credit, payments, insurance, and savings right at the point of need. But can this innovation truly bridge the financing gap for SMEs? And what will it take for banks, fintechs, and regulators to align in making it work? Joining us for this conversation, however, Shea Shetuan is a co-founder at Vendor Credits. Great to have you on the show, Shea.
Thank you for having me, Lady. Good to see you again.
Fantastic. Great to see you. A nice hat there. But before we get into the conversation now, break it down for us what exactly embedded finance means.
Well, so embedded finance is akin to what e-commerce has done to traditional trade. So basically what you're saying is a situation where you're able to access financial services and products like lending, savings, insurance, and investments, instead of you having to go and look for them, they actually come to you on the platforms in which you do business in. So embedded finance, simply put, is basically integrating finance into platforms where non-financial transactions typically occur.
Right, and are you optimistic? This could bridge the massive financing gap most of these SMEs have.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I explained, it's akin to what e-commerce has done to traditional trade. And the difference is this. Think about it from this perspective. Right now, if you want to access finance as an SME, you need to physically walk into either a bank or touch any of the touch points, gather all your data, gather your collateral, your birth certificate, and all those crazy things that are usually requested for, and then apply to the banks, and then they start processing it back end for you, What embedded finance does is it changes the game. So it now becomes a situation where the banks come to your platform where you do your trade. So let me give a simple example. If I'm selling on any e-commerce platform, for instance, typically I have to gather my statements and send it to the bank for them to do an assessment. But the variance now is with the fintechs and what embedded finance offers is all the analysis will be done on that platform once you give them consent to access your data. And they can make offers to you at that point. So for instance, what we are doing at Vendor Credits is just ensuring that your power changes hands more or less. And that choice is finally in the hands of the consumer. So they're in a position where they're able to see a variety of loan service providers, and be able to determine, which product suits their need the best, which terms are better, which tenor is better, which pricing is better. So yeah, embedded finance, as long as we continue to have expansion in, internet penetration as well as mobile phone penetration as well, and e-commerce and digital platform payments continue to increase, those ingredients make a sweet recipe for embedded finance to continue to thrive and include SMEs that typically didn't have, have never had these options before, It makes it accessible to them and finally puts the remotes in their hands.
Right, and talking about, the cost of credit, cost of money at this time, I know investors, businesses, they're all watching out, for the body language of all the central bankers that are all meeting, this period, this week into next week here in Nigeria. But, looking at embedded finance, what platforms or sectors in Nigeria, for example, we have retail, logistics, agriculture, which ones present, the biggest opportunities, in your view, for embedded finance?
Well, so e-commerce is huge. There's a lot of transactions going on the e-commerce platforms. I think over 65% of the payments that happen on e-commerce are digital, Digital forms of payment. So e-commerce is the immediate one because they've captured your transactions. They have down to the nitty-gritty of the details that are available for you. So off the back of that, you can be able to use that to access credit or any of these other financial services that you require. I think e-commerce encompasses social commerce as well because we know a lot of payments are happening on that platform. Agro and other services that, other platforms. I think the second one I would say is that on supply chain ERPs as well, that also provides a huge opportunity because that captures the spend of pretty much all the big wigs in Nigeria, right? Every big manufacturing concern, oil and gas, and all these other guys. That also presents a huge opportunity for embedded finance. Government spending as well, because I mean, from the expenditure budget of the government, which is in tens of trillions, right? There's an opportunity to integrate into that and also be able to enable contractors, vendors, and service providers to the government to be able to also access capital and as well as other services like insurance, bonds, and all those kind of things in a seamless and fast manner. And that's what we are working at in vendor credit to ensure that we bridge that gap, we fill this opportunity, and that we change the narrative for SMEs, ensuring that they're not just surviving but ultimately thriving as well.
Right, definitely. We need the SMEs to make a lot of money so that they can employ more people. But many SMEs lack, formal records. Although we have NIN, we have BVN, and now we see the government looking at enforcing the tax ID come 2026. How excited are you, for that? When it comes to getting records straight when it comes to Nigeria's, and some of the SMEs that maybe sometimes lack all the information or are not registered. How are you excited about, the government's stance here on this tax ID policy?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction. I think maybe I would have a differing opinion from me as to whether SMEs have financial data or not. The reality is that SMEs actually do have data, right? It's just that the data is not, in a format that the current financial analysts, right, need to be able to make a lending decision. But they do have data, and that's what digital payments as well as e-commerce driving trends, right, are doing for a lot of these SMEs. What they've been able to do is to capture a lot of their data, their trade data, down to how many units or items they are selling per day, who they are selling to, all that data now comes together in a place that makes it easy for those that need to make financial decisions, right, to make an assessment of the risk of the SME, right? And then once you've been able to assess the risk, then you can price it and determine how you want to structure the facility. So in a nutshell, I think, the times for SMEs, the future looks very bright for SMEs. The opportunities and the game-changing technologies that are coming to play are going to make us be able to drive down this high mortality rate. I don't know if you're aware, but they said 8 out of 10 SMEs in Nigeria die within their first 5 years.
Right.
And it's ridiculously high when you compare it to other African countries, which is maybe 5 out of 10. So these efforts, right, government has to capture tax, and not just capture tax for tax purposes, but also capture it to know where they need to do interventions, right? Know which areas it is that, if they're going to be running programs where they want to intervene in SMEs, they're able to know, based on that information, where that intervention can occur. Right. It also enables financiers and the rest of them to also have data to make the decisions that they need to make.
Right, because I also saw a recent data, showing that business birth rates in Nigeria has declined sometime in 2024. But, you did, talk about, game-changing opportunities that are coming up. What kind of partnerships are we seeing, there? Because we have, we have the telcos, we have the fintechs. Everyone is, getting into that credit space at this time, even the traditional banks. So what kind of partnerships are you seeing in the pipeline?
Yeah, well, I can only speak on, my experience, right, in this space. And we've been fortunate enough to gather and to sign some partnerships. We've signed partnerships with the largest e-commerce platforms in Nigeria, right? And that's good for us because we're able to launch and offer embedded finance to there are over 100,000 merchants on their platform. That's on one side. We've also seen partnerships on the banking side where banks, we've been able to show banks data, right, that supports the activities that we're doing, especially in lending to SMEs, right? And we've been able to sign up about 3 banks where we've done partnerships where they are pretty much providing lines for us to be able to meet the demands for those SMEs. And then on the corporate side as well, which is, on the physical side where, there's not a lot of e-commerce, where it's just traditional trade. We've also been able to offer, sign up partnerships in that direction across 6 major sectors. That's fast-moving consumer goods, manufacturing, energy, telecommunications, construction, healthcare, and NGO as well. So we've been able to sign partnerships across those major industries, which are the target industries that we're interested in, and offer some level of embedded finance, right, where we're running pilots as it is, but the full idea is to be able to integrate with their ERPs and ultimately offer a seamless, offer seamless financial services in an embedded format to the vendors and service providers that work with them, which are primarily SMEs, just to mention that.
All right, and definitely we know this sector is not risk-free. What risk do you see, in rolling out, embedded finance, but at scale?
Well, I mean, Toby, your previous friend of mine and your previous guests, right, talked about the things that keep all entrepreneurs up at night, right? Risk, obviously, is one of them. Of course, we have to, with technology comes a lot of risk. There's conversation around data, protecting customers' data so that you don't have a situation where you have a breach, right, in customer-sensitive information. So we are data compliant, and we're, ensuring that, we don't have those kind of breaches materialize on our platforms. Other types of risks is, of course, the credit risk in the transaction itself. But the reality is that you can't do lending without having some level of defaults. Your goal at the end of the day is to minimize it as much as possible, ensuring that it does not erode the margins that you're making, as well as the equity of the business in which you're running as well. So credit risk, data protection risk, of course, government policy as well. I think the CBN recently launched a vision roadmap for payments in 2025. Very robust and ambitious targets have been set there, and they've outlined, what it is that they believe would drive growth, economic growth for the future of Nigeria. And, we buy into that as well. Our prayer is that, in terms of being able to implement it, right? Implementation, is done in the best possible way, under the best possible standards, just to drive things in that direction. Then, I mean, and other risks exist, but some of them can also be opportunities like FX.
Right, FX, and we've all been enjoying stability for a while now, and I guess we're getting used to it, so far. But beyond credit, what other, financial services like, insurance, savings, payments can realistically, be embedded for Nigerian SMEs?
Oh no, what you've mentioned, insurance can be embedded. So imagine today if I get a contract from whether it's the federal government or any of these blue chip multinationals, right? And there's supposed to be an advance payment that's supposed to come out of it, right? Usually what I have to do is go to the bank, right, and ask for, oh, I need an advance payment. They will ask me to bring a whole lot of documentation. They want to verify my contract and a couple of things like that as well. We have been able to pioneer that on our platform where, you can get advance payment guarantees, performance bonds, and all of that off the back of the partnerships that we have with major insurance brokers as well as insurance companies, such that the time frame of maybe 2 to 4 weeks that it takes for you to access it from traditional financial institutions, you can get the same thing within 24, maximum 48 hours on our platform. So look, savings, insurance, all kinds of financial services are already being embedded. Interestingly, the World Bank estimates that by 2030, right, embedded finance is going to be a 7.2 trillion market. So it just means that the possibilities within embedded finance is endless. It's pretty much breaking down that brick and mortar structure and that currently exists, that has a lot of bottlenecks and limitations around it, and democratizing the process so that all, as long as you don't need to know anybody for you to be able to get what you ought to get. And I think that's what embedded finance offers, a ground leveler.
All right, definitely we like forward guidance. We like to look ahead. Looking forward now, what would you rate success in embedded finance, for SMEs? What do you think that would look like in the next 5 years?
Oh no, I think there's going to be a lot of penetration in this space. Like I mentioned, the World Bank has already estimated that about $7.2 trillion globally is the size of the opportunity of embedded finance by 2030. That's 5 years from now. What I see in terms of what that means in terms of practical terms is you're going to see a drive up in financial inclusion, right? As well as, people that primarily had been underserved, SMEs that have been underserved by financial service segments, right? Now have, seamless and easy access. Data, we're going to see the democratization of data. I think open banking is going to make that a reality for everyone. We're going to see, importantly, choice, right? The consumers, which in this case are the SMEs, will be spoiled with choice, because what embedded finance now does is that it enables them to share their data, right, with as many people that are willing to offer them services. And just the same way when you go on any of these travel sites and you want to buy a ticket to the same destination, it shows you a variety of tickets and airlines and the various services they're going to offer, as well as their pricing. We're going to see that happen to SMEs as well. We're going to see job creation improve, because as credit comes in, they have the ability to expand and hire more people. And then lastly, we're going to see a significant improvement when it comes to the survival of SMEs. So for me, once they have access to capital as well as other critical financial tools, those things are going to elongate their life, and hopefully you can see a situation where maybe 4 or 2 or 3 out of 10 SMEs are, able to survive not just the 5-year barrier, but even the 10-year barrier as well. Fantastic.
So hopefully we see more birth rates, more survivals for businesses and most of these SMEs. Always great having this conversation.
I was going to add that maybe you can now focus more on your side hustle than your main hustle.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Shay. It was great talking to you, co-founder, Vendor Credits. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.